Live from Cool Boys Central.
You're the boss down there. I'm boss up here.
From bat tips to bat nips, we are just cool boys revisiting Batman, the animated series, and wearing hats. This is Batman and Beyond, a Cool Boys podcast.
I see Batman and Beyond.
Greetings, Cool Boy Bat Nation, and welcome to another installment of Batman and Beyond,
Woo-woo!
a Cool Boys podcast. I'm Ballard.
And I'm Steve.
So cool. Tonight's episode is I Am the Knight, directed by Boyd Kirkland and written by Michael Reeves. This one came out November 9th, 1992 on a weekday, and then came out primetime, Steve, December 13th, 1992. This week's villain is the Jazzman. Ooh. Well, Wikipedia says, on the anniversary of the death of Bruce's parents, Batman accompanies Leslie Tompkins to Crime Alley to place roses on the spot where they were gunned down. Meanwhile, Commissioner Gordon is on a stakeout to arrest Jimmy the Jazzman Peak during a drug smuggling ring. Batman had promised to be there, but arrives late to find a gun battle going on. He helps defeat the gangsters and arrest the Jazzman, but at a high cost. Gordon is severely wounded. The incident traumatizes Batman, and he contemplates giving up his crime-fighting career, despite the Jazzman escaping prison to carry out his personal vendetta against Gordon, who had sent him to the prison 6 years before. Wow.
That was a great synopsis. Sometimes they're short, but you know, probably because this went to prime time, they were like, let's give this one a long one.
I guess so, yeah. Something very interesting I kind of thought of almost immediately watching this episode, or at least when you start seeing Leslie Tompkins and Bruce, or as Batman technically, meeting up together in Crime Alley. Is it been technically a year since the episode Appointment in Crime Alley?
Well, I definitely think it's, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's at least been a year since that time.
So a year is taking place as we've watched.
Or longer.
Longer. Yeah,
I feel like the way the show is portrayed, it's like, especially where they involve Robin and they don't involve Robin, it's hard to tell where some of the episodes are taking place. I don't think it's really chronological all the time.
I like to think of it as chronological, and Robin's just busy at college.
That's what I've explained it as in my head too, but I also feel like it's not very chronological. I feel like it jumps forward in time, I guess.
Maybe if we watched it based on air date as opposed to production order, this would
sense.
all be alleviated.
I think it makes less sense
Probably,
in the
who
air
knows?
date, because that's why they always, the way that they present them is in the production order, like in the Blu-ray format and in streaming
DVD.
and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was like the producer's intention, was the way that they produced it. I like how it's like a classic image of Batman just slumped in his chair. He is depressed in this episode. He starts off all just like slumped over, depressed, and then he sees the newspaper about Penguin's overturned conviction.
Yeah, Steve. I have a quick question about that, actually. So the article reads, right, the headline's Penguin conviction overturned, and then the subline is, Judge rules technical. We don't know what else it says. Steve, can he do that?
Can the judge rule technical?
Yeah.
What I was thinking it was elaborating on was that it was because of Batman. That's kind of like the classic thing that the comics kind of developed, was that even though Batman would get these people arrested, when they go to court, they wouldn't be able to go to jail because like the evidence was tainted, or there was some sort of issue on that side, and that made it kind of interesting. And that is like kind of where he starts questioning if he's actually that useful, and that's what this whole episode's all about. Is it's really like, is he somebody that can stop crime?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I liked in Superman Returns, the Bryan Singer masterpiece, right? Superman Returns, it has a moment where Lex Luthor talks about how Superman's like, great at catching people, but he's not like good at the other things like Miranda rights, due process, making your court date, something like that. I think I'm paraphrasing. It's very close to that. So like, I like that. Like that brings in the reality that like, yeah, like you couldn't really just have someone like Batman busting criminals and then having it stick.
I think so. Partly. It depends on like what the crime is and if they have a good attorney.
And on top of like how much the police probably were involved or not involved. Like I'm sure if Batman just busted somebody, no officers, law enforcement anywhere nearby to watch it, and he just drops them off in front of like, police department. I mean, they can't probably do much with someone like that.
Yeah, there's the issue in legal terms a lot of times is chain of custody. So if they could prove at some point the evidence could be tainted, and so if Batman's the one that's like giving them the evidence that so and so, is a criminal or something like that, and it wasn't obtained through like legal means, then there's a bad chain of custody.
We're watching a little boy almost get beat with some brass knuckles. This little boy, of course, is played by 18-year-old Seth Green, which is pretty cool.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's Seth Green. I looked it up. That's Seth Green. And another very interesting voiceover talent that's in this episode as well is Brian George, who plays the Jazzman. Brian George, do you recognize that name?
I do not.
He was Babu in Seinfeld. Very bad man.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
all right.
He's in a bunch of shit, realistically. He, in his later years, the last 10 years, I would say, or if not more, he has done a shitload of voiceover work. So he doesn't seem to film as much, on camera. He's mostly just doing, I guess, animation.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff, though.
Yep. Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. You're right, Steve.
Guy's got work. He was on Weeds.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, yeah, he plays the Jazzman in this, and of course, they must have, I guess, take a vacation on animation design day because he looks horrible. The Jazzman's got like the weirdest bone structure from his like forehead to his cheekbones. It's very Dick Tracy, and then to call him Jazzman's very Dick Tracy.
I thought that's what he was supposed to be. Was supposed to be like one of those caricature mobsters from that time.
We've had
period.
a few of those though. We've had one that was literally called The Boss, and we never. I think it was POV. Then there's been like Boss Biggest. Lloyd Ventress was essentially kind of like a character like this. Like they've had really random hard like criminal type characters that are not involved in like the Joker, Rogue type gallery, Two-Face, Penguin. Mm-hmm. And they're fairly good episodes usually.
I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I thought so too. I liked it.
I think the problem with this one wasn't that he's not important. He's just like has a vendetta, and it's more about Batman just being kind of broken, and having to like try and stop him.
Yeah, and we're watching right now Batman actually fighting and stopping the Jazzman. But Jimmy Peak or something like that. But we watch like him jump onto the truck, right? It's like amazing, like this over the head shot where you see Batman like jump early, right, to catch the truck by the time he lands, like it's in this right spot. Like that's great choreography for animation. And then they have this wonderful shot after Batman crashes the truck by using the batarang, or not the batarang. He uses the grappling hook. Right, he catches, and he helps spin the truck into the building. He like slips into the shadows like so coolly, like he just like walks backwards, like no one saw me, was never here. It's like what is going on, Batman? Everyone knows you were there.
He's a ninja. And
then he's like watching from the shadows, and he sees like Gordon has been shot and killed.
Yeah, that was sad. He looks shocked.
I remember this episode as a kid, and I was like kind of bored watching this episode as a kid.
Yeah. Were you bored watching it again?
No, not as much. I enjoyed it a little bit more this time. Absolutely.
The problem, I think, as a kid or watching it, it's just generally like you knew like some characters just weren't going to they weren't going to kill off Batman. They weren't going to kill off Gordon,
Are you sure?
In these types of shows, I was never concerned about them.
Oh, no, we just missed it. Oh, yeah, I wanted to show you that. So, Jazzman had a great ass. When he's getting into the squad car on the news footage in black and white, they, like, did a really shapely, like, curvaceous ass for him. I was like, what? They gave him a great ass. And then the officer sits down next to him, and they could have done the same animation. The officer's ass is nowhere as good as the Jazzman's ass. It really, if you want to go back and rewind it, it's fine. Like, it's funny. Like, the Jazzman has an incredible ass. There was a Steve Sponsor cliffhanger act break before that where Commissioner Gordon was dead. That's how we go to break. Steve, how do we come back from break?
Well, it's a good one. The doctors are working on him. You still don't know if he's actually alive.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You know, most of the time it's like, oh, he just steps out of the way or some other really easy way to avoid whatever cliffhanger was coming.
Rolls out of the way.
But I thought that was pretty cool actually. It was good animation too. The way they were like following him into the operation room and whatnot.
Yeah, and now we're in the hospital and we see Bullock and Batman and Barbara Gordon all in Commissioner's hospital room, all arguing essentially.
Bullock is a dick. Blames Batman.
Yeah, well, Bullock always tries to blame Batman for everything. I mean, if there's any way he can put off any of his own guilt onto Batman, he will. I love that Barbara's back. This episode doesn't do a lot in the way of
No, just
continuing Barbara's origin to be Batgirl, but there's small hints where she says stuff like, you know, oh, I got to go out there and try to find the guy who did this. And it's like, you know, and they're like, no, don't do it, Barbara. And it's like, that's a little hint, obviously. And then there's the moment where she realizes when later on the episode when Batman and Jazzman are going to fly through the glass window in the hospital into Gordon's room, Barbara actually grabs like a curtain and moves it over so that glass going everywhere doesn't like go kill her dad or like, you know, hurt her dad any further. It's pretty brilliant.
And just the fact that she's like comfortable talking with Batman. You know.
Yeah, really comfortable talking with Batman.
But yeah, I thought that you know, after Bullock basically blames Batman, Batman takes it to heart, goes back and throws like the biggest temper tantrum that you can think of. He is like one spoiled little kid, you know. He's just this rich kid that no one's ever said no to, and now someone said no. He's like, you know what? I don't need all this laboratory stuff. Ah!
He trashes his like multi-million-dollar like supercomputer.
Do you think he cleaned this? I don't think he cleaned it up himself. I think
no, Alfred does.
He calls Alfred down there. It's like, yeah. So
when Alfred is in between molesting children, he absolutely goes and has to clean up after Batman.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, let's just be honest here. Wizard, right, the Seth Green character in this episode, is a lucky motherfucker. Batman goes and gives him to Leslie Tompkins to take care of him. And what ends up happening is Wizard actually learns the better of his ways. He's like, yo, Batman, I've been taken to orphanages and whatever and like young boys clubs, and it sucks, but this one you dropped me off at, this one's super cool. The lady's super fine, so I am going to turn my life around. Now, let's think about this. If Batman frogged Wizard, right, did what he did with Frog to Wizard, brought him back to Bruce Wayne's mansion, and just let Wizard, like, you know, work out with Alfred, I don't think things would have turned out so well for Wizard. Okay, let's just say that.
All right.
I think Alfred would have done way too much bath time in one day, where he forces bathing onto the children or onto Wizard. We saw that with Frog.
I disagree. I think Alfred is a good man.
You know, I thought Bill Cosby was a good man.
Okay.
I was wrong. All right, I was wrong, Steve. Sometimes it hurts to find out your heroes are actually villains. And Steve, you know what's wonderful as we see Alfred here? Dick is in this too.
Yeah, he calls Robin because Batman's so depressed.
And Robin walks in on Batman looking like he's been on a 3-day bender.
I wanted to write it down, but that is some like dark Batman quote. There's a nihilist quote that Batman has that's just basically like, is any of what I do worth it? You know, and just pretty sad.
Yeah, and then I think he even goes on and says, when you look too long into the abyss looks back at you, which isn't actually the quote. The quote is, he who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster, and if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. And that's been Friedrich Nietzsche. And he's essentially saying is that, like, you know, Batman who's reflecting on what he's done, and if he's actually, you know, caused more good than bad, you know, like that's one aspect of the whole Abyss quote. And then on top of that, you layer the fact that all of this simultaneously going on while he's struggling with the idea that Batman is left unchecked. He also himself too can become a monster, which is what you watch when he throws that temper tantrum, and he destroys it just starts destroying his Batcave for some reason. And then it's again interesting because then it's like on the third level, Batman, you know, creates his own monsters literally by existing. I mean, that's something that's commonly discussed throughout Batman lore, right? Like people like the Joker probably would not have existed if Batman didn't exist himself. So it's really crazy that he does drop that quote because that quote is so fucking awesome and famous.
Well, that was very interesting. I enjoyed that lesson.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's obvious. This whole episode is that, really, you know, and it's like really well done. I just like how they kind of drop that line because it's always been like, it's like almost where they could have started the episode and then built it from there.
I like how Robin basically is like, well, screw you, Batman. I'm gonna go stop him myself, and he goes to use his. He goes to use his motorcycle or bat cycle. And
wait, no. Before that, though, he goes to the hospital room, and it's our first time we ever see Dick with Barbara.
Is it?
They're never with each other on Heart of Steel, and that's the first time we met Barbara.
Yeah.
Right? Am I wrong? Right? Am I mistaken?
Heart of Steel?
Yeah. Isn't that the first time we meet her?
Yeah, first time. Yeah.
Because she comes home from college, and Bruce is all, Barbara, you've grown. Huge old titties. Nom, 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 nom. And you're like, Bruce, you know, chill out, bud. So yeah, this is like, I mean, Barbara and Dick, I know Dick goes on and has other relationships in the comics, like with Starfire. But like there's very much within this show and, you know, and Batman lore, Dick and Barbara get together, you know, especially when it's Batgirl and Robin. When he becomes Nightwing, for sure. I think that's when it's like
in
more
the
Starfire.
Latest iteration they have of Young Justice right now, the Nightwing, which is who Robin becomes,
right,
is dating Barbara, who's in
a
wheelchair.
It's not Starfire?
And she's no, yeah, and Starfire's engaged to Superboy.
Interesting.
And it's really good. This new season of Young Justice is just like probably the best storytelling that I've seen in a long time in the DC universe. I would highly recommend it.
Nice. Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to check it out.
I thought it was funny when they show Robin going on his bat cycle, because Batman lost his bat cycle. So I think the whole reason that inspired Batman to actually save the day was that he was really jealous of Robin.
Okay, wait, Steve, is it maybe more along the lines of Batman was like, wait, Robin's gonna go save the day? Fuck that.
Yeah, on his bat cycle, and I don't have a bat cycle?
I'm doing it now, Robin. Sorry, go get your green belt and go fucking work out a little bit. I'm taking care of this.
I think so. But I think what really inspired that hatred was that he was like, what? Oh, yeah, I lost my bat cycle.
Fuck, I lost my bat cycle in a train accident. Fuck Robin. He's not getting his fucking bat cycle.
Fuck that kid.
Wait, did Batman then take the bat cycle? Or
no.
Did he...
I think he used his... he was on rooftops, and he was, like, using the backlighter or something like that.
He's always backlighting. What did he do? Yeah, because it's like...
They just show him show up.
He just he just stops Robin, puts his hand on his shoulder, and the next thing you see him, he's like, he's flying through the cityscape.
Mm-hmm.
And then the episode ends, of course, with this awesome climax in the hospital room after, like we mentioned, Barbara pulls the curtain over to block the exploding glass coming in all over her comatose father.
I really love how the Jazzman's like persistent. I mean, he escapes from jail, and instead of just getting out of there after
escaping,
he's like
finishing the escape.
I'm gonna fucking kill him. Like
I'm going to the hospital where he's protected, and I'm gonna kill him.
That is,
by the way, and the way he kills him too is like really inventive. Like he beats the fuck out of the window washer, and then goes all the way up there to kill the dude.
It was impressive for me.
Yeah, and then he gets in the room, and it's a slow-mo climax, right? Straight out of like a modern AAA video game where he's like, you know, reaching for the gun, pulling it up, pulling the trigger, and Batman's got to get, you know, one of the batarangs out fast enough to block the fucking barrel of the gun. if this was a video game, I would have fucked up like 3 times. There's like no way I would have gotten it right. I've been like, boom, Gordon's dead. You failed.
For sure. Yeah.
Would you like to retry from checkpoint? Yes. Boom, Gordon's dead. You
You have to
failed.
be quick enough to get it to that barrel. Like that was a 1 in a million shot. I couldn't.
Well, if you play the slow-mo, if you assume the slow-mo is all the same frame rate, okay? Let's just assume this whole slow-mo sequence is all 120 frames per second, okay? And Jazzman is pulling the trigger and the hammer is cocking back in the gun at 120 frames per second. Meanwhile, Batman is moving so incredibly fast. Like, so incredibly fast. He's like, zoop, zoop, throwing fucking shit across the room in the amount of time it takes someone to pull a trigger for the hammer to cock back and then hammer to launch forward, hit the firing pin on a bullet, and launch a bullet out the barrel. Batman's able to grab from his belt a batarang and throw it perfectly into a barrel.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. That's why he's the best.
Mm-hmm. World's greatest.
I gave this actually 3.5 out of 5 boys. What'd you give it?
I give it 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. It's nothing special.
I liked
but
that
really
it was coming back in with some continuity. I didn't mention that earlier, or we kind of talked about it. How it's like, you knew why Batman was depressed. One of the reasons, because this was the anniversary of his parents' death, and that he was going to Crime Alley, and then he was doing all this process, and they didn't need for you to really. They didn't need to go through it. They didn't need for you to understand it because you've been watching the show and you know that this is just a hard day for Batman.
Yeah, so in Appointment in Crime Alley, it's like the end of the episode, right? The whole episode builds up to what is the date? Right, what's this date? What is it? What's going to happen? But in this one, it's like over and done with within maybe the first like 3 minutes of the episode. He's already there. He's already dropped off the roses. And then that's when he goes to save Wizard, who's being beat on by 2 punks, 2 criminals.
And he's late.
Who, one of them falls on the roses. And Batman's like, fuck! You fell on my fucking parents' roses!
I know.
I imagine, I think if I'm not mistaken, the scene either cuts or dissolves away with Batman's horrified face. But what I'd like to imagine is that Batman then lined that fucking criminal up on the curb and just curbed him. Just fucking curbed him, like right there. It's like, fuck that. Just Edward Norton'd him from American History X.
Well, Batman
like, just
doesn't
right
kill.
there in Gotham. Crime Alley. And then that's when Batman said something cool like, don't lose your head. You know?
Wow.
3.5 out of 5 boys. Cool. All right, well, great Bat stuff.
Good stuff.
Cool Boy Nation, tune in next week. Same Cool Bat time, same Cool Bat channel. Cool Boy Bat Nation, be sure to let us bat know what you bat thought of I Am the Night, or what your favorite Bat episode is by bat emailing us at batmanandbeyondcoolboys@gmail.com. New episodes come out every Tuesday. Also, please check out our other great Cool Boy Central content with the Cool Boys Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Patreon. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Cool Boys and review us on iTunes. Also, donate to us on Patreon. It only costs $1 and you will receive special access to content too hot to air. You can find the Cool Boys on Patreon at www.patreon.com/coolboyspodcast. Thank you for listening. Stay cool, Cool Boy Bat Nation. Until next time, it's Byzies from Ballard.
And Byzies from Steven.
So cool.
Batman
And beyond.
Oh, yeah.
Batman!
and beyond.
Oh,